Well, I hope this initial image isn't confusing anyone, because this is the original ice baller that was a Kickstarter for Wintersmiths creating crystal clear 60mm ice spheres. They're slow melting ice spheres that are made for cocktails and anything you want to have a ice cube in that would last a long time. The real allure of it is that, unlike most ice cubes you make, they had no bubbles in the final ice cube. And the way they created this was they have this initial canister here, and the mold. Obviously, this is where the cube is made. The mold fit together like this. It's a little tricky to get the mold put in together. It basically has to snap into place. And I'm doing this dry too, so there's no water on there. Okay, so that's snapped into place on the edges. And then this outer sheath would go around that mold to hold it tightly together. And you may notice, if you can see through, there's a hole here and a hole here that water basically is poured through. Now, when the water goes in through the top, it fills up the reservoir inside through this hole. When the water reaches the bottom of that hole, it stops in here and it fills the rest of the sphere. And something in the physics of this, some kind of leaching of the air down into the ice that forms down here, pulls it out of the sphere here and produces a crystal clear ice sphere. So personally, I was very happy with the initial ice baller. The real problem with it is that if you're going to have a lot of people over and you're making one cube at a time, it takes overnight basically to freeze the cube. So you have to plan ahead a lot with this, and you have to be constantly pulling the ice ice sphere out of the mold and resetting it up and putting it back in the refrigerator. So, but apparently this was not unique to me, and they did a second Kickstarter for a larger refrigerating unit that would do multiple spheres at the same time. And this is what we're unboxing today. So I'm going to slice this open again, making sure that I don't slice myself open. Okay. And now the guys at Wintersmiths learned a lot from the initial here we go, from the initial Kickstarter. And this was a bonus add-on that I did, where this will actually make real cubes in the same fashion. But this is the new mold that will make 4 at a time. This is one of the new molds. And here we have. No, that was around. It must have been around this, holding it together, and it came apart in the box. So, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push this out. I'll put the stuff down here so you can see all the bits as they come out. And here is the main box. They are a classy group of guys. There's a nice embossed silver Wintersmiths logo on here. And I'll get this open now. We have right on top a quick start guide. One card, fairly straightforward. Let's see. Yeah, that's everything you have to do. And they're saying 18 to 24 hours, varying upon specific freezer conditions, to do all your cubes. And so here is where the magic happens. And the one thing about this design that I've seen, when you do a Kickstarter, you follow the manufacturer online, and they usually have a prototype, and then they'll do a series of adjustments to it as they have to make manufacturing changes or just ergonomic changes. So this looks a lot simpler to put together. There's a very fine edge here and here, which worries me a little bit. That looks like if it gets nicked or something, it might be a problem. But it certainly is. It certainly is a lot less complex to put together. And then here's the reservoir area, because it uses basically the same principle. So this is going to be the end of the first part of the demo. This is the unboxing portion, and shortly we'll move to the setup of it. So I'll put it together, and which should be fairly straightforward. And then we'll do a third part, which will be taking the assembly apart and seeing the ice spheres that get made. So stick around. Well, right away you may notice something different from the first video, and that is that I discovered shortly afterwards that this inner tray does pull out of the foam outer tray, and this is basically just one of those more plastic-like foam bits. My wife will like this because it's not the kind of squeaky styrofoam foam that's used in a lot of packaging. It's very smooth and quiet to the touch. But I imagine they took this out so it's easier to wash this. And you don't necessarily, hopefully you don't have to wash that much. But so first instruction 1, with plastic insert inside foam box. Fill water to the bottom of the inner fill line. So there's an inner fill line here. Let's see if I can see it. Yeah. There's a little scoring here that is the fill line. So there's a bottom. You can actually feel it go down to about there. So about 2 inches down. So I'm going to take it over here and fill it with water. Now I'm just using standard tap water, which is how the original Wintersmiths Ice Baller worked. You don't have to use distilled water. You don't have to boil the water ahead of time. I was in a high-end cocktail. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse this out. This is absolutely the first time I've used this. I can see a little bit of scumminess in there, but it's looking clean now. I was in a bar last night where I had a Manhattan with an ice sphere in it, and it was the sphere was actually only about half clear. And usually most high-end bars have a machine that costs hundreds of dollars to make their ice cubes, and the guy said basically they were just using a standard mold like you could buy. Let's see, I've got some of them around here somewhere. Yeah, it's like this is a standard mold that you can use to make, just regular ice spheres, and but they're not anywhere near clear. And a lot of people will boil the water or use distilled water or both, and that will apparently make some of the bubbles disappear. But this sphere was actually only half clear and half was bubbly, and they said they were still working on it. But so we got step 1 filled to the bottom of the fill line. Step 2, assemble the silicone mold and slowly lower all the way into the filled water container. Water should overflow into the area above the fill holes. Top off if necessary. Okay, so we get this all lined up. I can feel the grips of the inner edges on the holes, and whoops, yeah, slowly. Now it's actually sinking down on its own right now. So that's about to the end of it. It feels like it's all the way down. So it looks like it needs to be topped off a little bit. So let's put about a cup of water in here and see how much it takes to top it off. Now I'm pouring directly into the individual holes, and it came out the other side. So that's pretty well topped off. It took about a quarter to half a cup of water to do that. So now we're looking at step 3. Place upright in the freezer for 18 to 24 hours. Well, I'm not going to set this up. You'll just have to trust me that I will actually use a freezer to do this. And luckily, we've been on vacation for a couple days, so our freezer is empty enough that I won't have too much trouble finding a location for that. And that is one of the reasons why this might not be perfect for everyone if you don't have a reasonably large freezer that would take this. And obviously it has to take this upright and keep it upright at least through the initial part of the freezing process. Probably the entire part of the freezing process. You couldn't actually turn it on its side or something halfway down there, because I think the physics of the way the air gets leached away from the ball would fail to work at that point. So we're up to step 3, and so we'll come back in about 24 hours to do step 4, which will be taking out the 4 new ice spheres. And that's it. So I actually decided I would show you how this looks in an average refrigerator, and it does take up quite a bit of space. That's that's in there with some other packages, so you can see a relative size. Those are standard Weight Watcher packages and some veggie, pineapple, chicken, some other good stuff. Making me hungry looking at this, but this is an area where I'm pretty sure my wife is going to be not particularly happy if I'm using this a lot and displacing frozen goods, because we usually have this pretty full. So that's it, and we'll see you in 24 hours. Okay, it's been 24 hours pretty much since I put the Wintersmiths Ice Chest into the refrigerator. Now this, of course, is not the Wintersmiths Ice Chest. This was actually a ice ball holder that came as a bonus with the original Wintersmiths. And what I wanted to show you was based on the expectation. Now this may not look clear because there's a little bit of frost on the bulb, but you can see that is pretty much bereft of any air in there. This has been in the refrigerator for a little while, and the distortion here is primarily, I believe, from the defrosting cycle that the refrigerator goes through. So just a note that they can distort. These were much more spherical. This one's got some pretty bad, but I think these have been in the refrigerator for several weeks, if not a month. I've been drinking a lot more wine lately. So I just want to put that aside and show you the expectation, and also that I'll be using this container for the ice chest. So here is the ice chest, freshly pulled out of the refrigerator, and you can see there's a little bit of ice, and I can see that there's bubbles right up to the top, which is a good sign. One of the things that the old Wintersmiths used to occasionally do is the air would shift inside the container, and there'd be like a pocket of air in the top, which of course would distort the sphere nature. So the expectation is that this will come out much easier out of this container than the Wintersmiths did. And if you go back and watch my original video on that, you'll see that it took a little bit of prying, and I had to actually run it under hot water for a while to get the parts to separate, to just get it at the ball. So now, looking at the steps, we're on step 4. Remove from freezer and peel out mold by pulling on both handles of one end. Both handles, one of the ends. Pulling on both handles. I see. So it is referring to the idea that these two are two pieces, so just supposed to pull up on one handle on one of the ends, and it's coming up. I think I'm actually going to not follow the instructions entirely, and after I get that loose. And now you can see in here there's still quite a bit of water after 24 hours, and there's a shell of ice here, but there's still a lot of water down in there, and this has not frozen all the way through, which the original Wintersmiths would occasionally freeze quite a ways into that the metal portion of the container, and would have to sit for several hours before the ice would melt enough for it to be cleared and cleaned. So now Step 5, separate the two mold halves and serve ice or store for later. So we're going to separate the mold halves here. I think I'm going to do it on its side. Oh, this one seems to be sticking. Yeah. Oh, this is looking really good. Very nice. Very nice. And again, that is so clear. You don't even need me to shine the light in on that, but just absolutely beautiful. We got 4 of them here that just frosted over. So those are going to go right back in the refrigerator. Very, very pleased with this. Just the unpacking portion of the ice spheres from the mold is well worth. I would have bought this if we only did 1 again, but doing 4 in 24 hours means that if I had a couple of days notice of having several people over, I could have 12 or 16 of these ready for a party on the weekend without any problem. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Again, Wintersmiths is at Wintersmiths.com, WINTERSMITHS.com, and this is really well worth the purchase. Thanks! And I hope you check out my other videos and subscribe and all that other good stuff that all the people who are much better on YouTube than I am never fail to remind you to do. Cheers!